right, tonight, please join us as we sing A Mighty Fortress is Our God, 656. 656, A Mighty Fortress is Our God. Now listen, this is very wordy, but it's very important that we get the message out of it. 656, ready? Let's jump on it, ready? Almighty fortress is our God, all bulwarks never failing. Our helper he amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing. For still our ancient foe doth work to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and armed with cruel hate. On earth is not his equal. Now I'm going to stop and explain that first verse to you. It's talking about the devil out there, and he's all out there, and he's so prevalent that everybody can see him. There's nobody as evil as he is. It says here, on earth is not his equal. Nothing is as evil as the devil. But if we read on through this song here, we're going to find that God is triumphant. So shall we do the second verse? Did we in our own strength confide, our striving would be losing. Were not the right men on our side, the man of God's own choosing. Doth as to that may be, Christ Jesus, it is He. Lord, say they of His name, from age to age the same, and He must win the battle. And on the fourth one, that word above all earthly powers, no thanks to them abideth. The Spirit and the gifts are ours through Him who with us sideth. Let goods and kindred go, this mortal life also. The body they may kill, God's truth abideth still. His kingdom is forever. Thank you for the good singing.
Right. There's a reason we sang that this evening, all right? And I'll explain that in a second. So we'll be in Psalm 46. Psalm 46. We're actually going to do Psalm 46 and Psalm 47. But Psalm 46 is really the background of where Martin Luther got the words to pen that hymn. And so I texted Brother Donald this morning. I was like, is that in our hymn book? You know, I know that's a good Presbyterian kind of song, but I didn't know if it was in there, and it sure enough is. And so I asked him to lead us in it. Thank you for that. A mighty fortress is our God. Now, Martin Luther, very influential person as far as church history goes. If not for Martin Luther, we most likely would all be Roman Catholic. To be honest, he's a Roman priest and a Roman Catholic priest, and starts reading the Bible for himself. And as he starts reading the Bible for himself, he realized that the Catholic Church was messing some stuff up, and realized, wait a second, we need to do something a little different. And so he had some criticisms against the Catholic Church on October 31st, 1517, when he nails these the 95 Theses is what they called, 95 complaints he had against the Roman Church, and he nailed them to the church door at Wittenberg, and people picked it up and read it. Next thing you know, the Protestant Reformation was started, and just need to be thankful for church history and always be reminded of some of those things that happen. So that is that hymn, and it comes from Psalm 46. So let's read Psalm 46. And before we read it, let's just give you a little bit of background to what the historical perspective of all that's going on in Psalm 46. Most likely, the historical background is probably God's deliverance of Jerusalem from the Assyrians in the time of King Hezekiah. So you could go to 2 Kings 18 and 19, you could go to 2 Chronicles 32, you could go to Isaiah 36 and 37 to give the historical perspective of what God had done for Jerusalem in an amazing work of God when he used some incredible things to save his people from destruction. And as we read Psalm 46, we'll see the pronouns being used are all plural. A lot of we and us. And because of that, we know this was something that would have been read corporately. This was not a personal psalm. This was a psalm that was meant to be used in worship. As we stop and we think about who God is, we stop and think about what God had done. I have to make that announcement, don't I? Time out. So sorry. Okay, nobody freak out. We need some help, all right? The students went to Kennedy Springs. They took the big bus. I think there's about 32 of them. And on the way over there, the wheel something or other, I can't remember exactly what he started smoking, all right? And so Mr. Benny said, because what he thinks it is probably one of those things we need to park it because it might catch fire. That being said, we need some help picking kids up, all right? So they're at Kennedy Springs for the back to school bash. I've got a few people that are willing to drive, and someone's going to drive. Brother Michael's going to drive the small bus, but we might need a couple more vehicles if some people might be willing to pick up some of our students. Don't everybody jump up at once. All right, I got a couple, 3, maybe one more. I think we'll be good. Okay, so sorry. The last couple times we've used the van, something's wrong has happened. And so it's just one of those things. So thank you. Yes, ma'am? I think it's supposed to end at 8. I thought it was 30 minutes-ish, but it's about 15-ish, 20 minutes-ish. So just kind of, I'll be as short as I possibly can just to make sure, or y'all just need to leave, just go ahead and leave, okay? We'd rather be safe with our students. All right, thank you for that. So the personal pronouns being used in the psalm are plural. So this is a song that is meant for worship and for thankfulness and encouragement even. And so the emphasis also on Psalm 46 is really on the presence of the Lord being with his people. That's always something to remember when we just think about who God is, that he is intimately active in our life. He is here, he's present, he's not abstract, he's here. And so the psalm focuses on the Lord and what he is to us when we look to him for trusting him. Like, we need to remember who God is and what he does. That helps us trust him more fully, right? The more you think about how good he is, the more we should be reminded how good he is. The more we see how he provides, the more we should see how he does provide. Like, when we understand his character, we start to see that part of his character in our daily life. And Psalm 46 does that. So let's read Psalm 46, and then we'll hit some of the high points. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, and the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. this psalm, we get a few pictures of who God is and why we should have trust in him. And the first one is in verses 1 through 3. And it is that God he's our tower of strength. He's our refuge and strength. Depending on your translation, you might get one or both of those. And that word there, refuge, in verse 1, it means a shelter. It means a rock of refuge. It's this picture of being able to go somewhere in the midst of a storm and being safe and secure. That's the picture. But in verses 7, it uses the word fortress. In verse 11, it uses fortress. And some of your translations may use the same word for each one, but they're a little different. In 7 and 11, the same word that's being used means stronghold. It means a high tower. So there's one picture where there's this place we can go in the midst of everything and be secure. And the other one is that more of an imposing structure that's meant for others to see and say, that right there is strong. And we need both pictures in our life, right? Like sometimes we just need a little place just to get out of the rain, right? And no one else may know that may be where we are. But a stronghold, that was something we can see from afar off. We can see, hey, that's a place that demonstrates strength. We can see the strength outside, and God is both. I mean, the same God that speaks and brings desolations on the earth is the same one who speaks in a still small voice sometimes, right? He's both. That's who God is. And so both those words, refuge and stronghold, or refuge and fortress, declare that God is dependable. He's a dependable refuge for us anytime things are falling apart. That's the picture. That when things are awful or difficult, stressful, when health is failing, finances are rough, we get the awful report from our doctor, when all those things happen, God is the refuge for us, right? He shelters us, not just to keep us safe, he also shelters us so that we can be stronger and be sent out of the shelter. The shelter is not meant to be permanent. Does that make sense? I mean, shelter from a storm implies that the storm one day is going to pass and we will emerge from the shelter and go back to life. And so we're safe here in the midst of the difficulties, but there's an idea that, hey, one day you need to go back out and you need to get back to life. And so that word there in verse 1, when it says help in trouble, that word trouble, it describes people that are in tight places or almost like you're in a corner and then you can't get out, almost as if your back's against the wall, so to speak, like everything in front of you is bad and you see no escape. Well, in that moment, God is our refuge. And so instead of being backs against the wall with everyone out, we are in a place where who's out there can't get in, is the picture. And that's a beautiful thing for us. So the admonition really is something like we talked about Sunday morning. Do not fear. That's mentioned 365 times in Scripture. Do not fear, or fear not. Well, the Bible tells us to fear not so much because it knows that there are plenty of things that we see and we are fearful of, right? Well, we got to remember, in the midst of fearful things, God is our refuge. He's our tower of strength. The second picture we see in verses 4 through 7, it's a little bit more subtle. It's almost as if he's the river. See that verse 4, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. It's almost a river of joy. The scene is really shifting to Jerusalem itself. And if the reference here is Hezekiah in Hezekiah's reign, the Assyrians had pretty much surrounded Jerusalem. And they were thinking that they could basically, in a siege, like you remember in siege times back then, if you were surrounded, you couldn't get out, you couldn't get food, you couldn't get water, they could just wait you out. Well, Hezekiah was smart. He built an underground water system in the city that connected to the spring of Gihon. And so the spring would come into a well on the inside of the city, so there was always water, always dependable, fresh water. And I think that's the reference here. There's this river who makes glad. And so the picture here, I think, is that even when we're surrounded, even when things look awful by worldly standards, there is a place for us to get sustenance and what we need, and it's the Lord, right? God is always going to provide what we need to get through whatever it is we're dealing with, if we'll trust him, right? Now, just as Jesus says, I'm the life, right? And he talks about, that one day, you're going to drink from what I give you. You'll never thirst again. There's an implication there that if we're going to get water, we have to continue to go to the good source, right? We can't drink one thing of water and be perfectly good forever. Like, we have to continue to feast and drink water. It's the same thing with our relationship with the Lord. A lot of times we get what we put in, right? And so there's this even though there's this never-ending supply for the people inside of Jerusalem for water, they still got to go get it, right? They know it's there, but if they don't get it or go to it, it's not going to fix anything that they need, right? So God is a river for us for joy, but we need to put forth a little bit of effort into going there and trust in him to be good to us. So I think no matter what our circumstances are, we may drink of the river of his joy and of his blessing and of his goodness and find the peace and strength that we need to deal with whatever we're dealing with. And that's the picture. And then in verse 8 through 11, we really just see that God is God, right? God is God, and he will be glorified. If you see verse 8, come and behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations of the earth. I think this scene is basically the scene that happened after God had destroyed the Assyrian army. And if you'll remember how God destroyed them, really all that happened is Jerusalem went to sleep, and they woke up and they were all dead. That's what happened. God sent his angel and killed everybody. It seems harsh, but that's what he did, right? And so he says, see, come, behold the works of the Lord. While you were sleeping in your refuge, God acted. While you were trusting in the river of joy that God provided, God did what only he could do. And that's where he says, he's brought desolations. He makes wars cease, it says. He breaks the bows and shatters the spear, burns the chariots. Be still and know that I am God, right? He reminds us, be still and know. Did you have to fight? No. All you had to do was sit back and trust me, right? So even though there had been no battle, the battle had been won. I mean, and that's, if you think about it, I know there's a song that's popular on the radio, something about this is how I fight my battles or something like that. I can't remember how it went, but that is a biblical picture that we trust God to fight. We should trust God to fight our battles. Now, most of us, we like to fight our battles ourselves, right? Because we trust us. We think we know better. Well, all they had to do was take a nap, and God did what he could do. Now, it looked bad on the outside. I'm sure there were times where they looked outside and said, this doesn't look good. Like, this looks bad. But they trusted the Lord, and he did what he could do. That word, be still, in verse 10, it almost means take your hands off. That's almost the picture. It's almost like, all right, just leave it alone, relax. And sometimes we just need to relax and let God do what he does. And sometimes the worst thing I can do for me most of the time is just try to fix it. Anybody ever had that? Like I got this, I'm good. I've got experience, or I've done this, or I've been here before. Like, we just think we can just put our hands on the situation and fix it, and be still almost just means just take your hands off, right? And so sometimes God allows us to be in these tight places so our faith will grow. That's the picture. And 47 and 48 also go together, 46, 47, 48. We're not going to go into 48, but we are going to do 47 as well. Because the promise of 46:10, be still and know that I am God, I will be exalted among the nations, I will be exalted in the earth, is fulfilled really in Psalm 47, okay? This idea of being exalted among the nations. So let's read Psalm 47. It says, clap your hands, all peoples, shout to God with loud songs of joy, for the Lord, the Most High, is to be feared, a great king over all the earth. He subdued peoples under us and nations under our feet. He chose our heritage for us, the pride of Jacob whom he loves. God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God, sing praises. Sing praises to our King, sing praises. For the God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with the psalm. God reigns over the nation. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the peoples gather as the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is highly exalted. 5 times in this psalm, the people are commanded to sing praises. 5 times. That's the thrust. Sing praises. Why? Because God reigns over all the earth. Reigns specifically over the nations, right? This is also, I think, a picture of the coming kingdom, too. It's the picture of the new kingdom that God is going to bless us with. But the idea here is that God has acted. What has he done? He's destroyed the Assyrian army, which Psalm 46 has talked about. And now what do we do because of what God has done? Well, we need to sing praises, which is what we should do when, when things are bad and you've got that horrible doctor's appointment or doctor's visit where they say, you've got this, and then a few months later, you don't have that anymore. Why? Because God's done what he could do. You went to your refuge, you relaxed, you took your hand off of it, you trusted the Lord, God came through. Well, what do we need to do as a result? Sing praises. When God restores a relationship, when you take the hand off and you trust him to work it out, God works it out, what do? You need to sing praises. So 47 connects directly to 46. So verses 1 through 4, what we really see is God is an awesome king. Clap your hands, all people. Shout to God with loud songs of joy. For the Lord the Most High is to be feared. He is a great king over all the earth. Now, what are they supposed to do in Psalm 46, verse 10? I want you to see the contrast. Be still. And now what are they doing in verse 1? Making all kinds of noise. There's a time for both in our life, where sometimes we just got to be still. We got to take our hands off the situation, run to the shelter and say, I got nothing for this moment. But then there's times where we need to clap our hands and be thankful for look what God's done. Both are biblical, right? When the Jewish people clapped their hands and they shouted, notice also it was to the Lord himself in response to his marvelous works. And so Jerusalem's deliverance proved once again that God was the God of Israel. And God did love his people and was going to work on their behalf, right? He gave them the victory so many times in the Old Testament. Why? Was it because Israel was good? No. Was it because they were always God-honoring? Clearly not. He did it because he made a covenant with them. Said, I'm going to love you. I'm going to be your God. You're going to be my people. There's a period after that. That's a statement of fact that God was saying. He says, no matter what you do, I'm going to be faithful. And that's encouraging, I think, for all of us to understand that there's nothing we can do to lose the love that God has towards us. Because if we could, folks, we would mess it up. If we could lose our salvation, we'd lose it. If we could lose the goodness of God, if it was up to us, we would. But God is good, and he's a good king. And so the idea, I think, is that, God's going to give us the victory in our life if we trust him. Now, that doesn't mean that the victory is going to look the way we want. Okay, that's not at all the picture here. But the picture is that God is a good king, and what he wants to happen will happen. And then verse 5, we see that our king is utterly triumphant. God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with the sound of a trumpet. Now, a lot of times in the scriptures, even in Psalms, you'll see how it's referred to God is coming down, right? Think about this. The Tower of Babel in Genesis, right? God tells the people in creation, fill the earth and subdue it, which means go. And instead of going, the Tower of Babel says, nope, we're going to stay right here and build a monument to ourselves of how awesome we are. And then it says God came down to see, right? There's that picture. God came down and looked at Sodom and Gomorrah. There's this picture of God coming down. Also, Jesus comes down from heaven when he's born. So the night that the Assyrian soldiers, about 180,000 of them, are killed by the angel, God came down in judgment on them. And so now what we see in verse 5 is he has come down to do what he was going to do. He did it, and now he's going back up. That's the picture. And when he's going up, he goes up with a what? A shout. That's a victorious shout. The Bible also tells us that one day he will come again. And when he comes in the same way he came here, as a victorious king who's coming to judge the world, right? That's the same Jesus that we see. So he goes up. So Jesus came down to defeat Satan, sin, and death, and he went back up as it is in his ascension, and one day he's going to return. So that, even in verse 5, I think it's almost reminding us of what's coming again. And then through 6 through 9, we see verse 7, for God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with the song. I think here he's reminding us that our King is the King of Kings. That's what he's reminding us. The picture is like, well, what now? What do we do in response to this? Well, the rulers and the peoples of the Gentile nations, they're joining in praising the Lord, right? Sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. And he says, for God is the King of all the earth, sing praises with the psalm. The idea in verse 8, God reigns over the nations. The picture here is this is not just that God loves Israel. He does. It's not just that he's God of Israel, although he is. He's God of the world. So that's a missional focus, right? That even though God came down and destroys the Assyrians, he's God of them too. And when God does something miraculous like he's done, the picture that, I keep saying picture, what he wants to see happen out of that is for everyone to see who God is and to worship him. It was never about God saving Israel so Israel would be thought much of. God saved Israel so he would be thought much of. And the same thing happens when those lab reports change and our relationships are changed and families are changed. When these things happen, it's not about us, it's about him, which is why 5 times this psalm says, sing praises to God, right? Israel is now blessed because they've been saved, but now they're also being a blessing to the world, which is exactly what he told Abraham. When he makes a covenant, number the stars, can you? No. Well, you're going to be a blessing to the world. It wasn't about Abraham blessing the world. It was about God blessing the world through Abraham. And that's what God does to us. So, what do we do with 46 and 47? Well, we need to just be reminded that sometimes we just got to sit back, take our hands off, and just trust the Lord. But when God does what only he can do, we need to sing praises to him, because that's why he does those things. He does them because he loves us, sure, and he wants to bless us, but he also does those great things to us because he wants others to see who he is. So even when God blesses us, it's not just about us. It's meant for us to show people who Jesus is, right? So when those good things happen, when God comes through and does amazing, miraculous things in our life, let's not steal the glory from the Lord, but instead sing praises to him, because when we do that, more people get drawn to him, and that's the point. Next week we'll do 48, because 48 goes with 46 and 47. I just knew we weren't going to quite have time. Let me get a... All right, we have any updates first on our prayer list? Okay. Any other updates? Anybody we can take off? Okay. Anybody we need to add? Linda West. She has what? Having some test run. Okay. Kai Wester, I believe, is having hand surgery on Friday. Remember him? Okay. Did Leah's grandmother pass away? Okay. They're in the across from the office. There's the little table where we put bulletins. Look on the right drawer, but I don't know which one it is. I put all of them in there because I don't know which one. I think it's the one that's. Yes, sir. Okay. Right. Sorry. He's going to take the bus. All right. All right. If there's nothing else, let's. Shea Berry, we can take off. Okay. Ouch. Okay. Is that KY or KEY? KY. EY. Okay. All right. Make sure I heard right. Okay. All right. Well, then let's. Yes, ma'am. All right. It's Jesse Warren. I knew a Jesse Warren, but that's not him. Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's pray. Lord, thank you for your goodness and your kindness, God. Even as we stop to pray for some of these, there's some that have lost loved ones, and there are some that have still waiting for results, and some are doing poorly because of health issues, and there's other issues here too, God, of so many different types. We just pray that you would be near to those families, that you would bless those families, God, that you would give them your grace and your peace and your mercy, God, that you would just be near to those folks where that you would remind them that, just as you've reminded us tonight in your word, that there's so many times we just need to take our hands off our situations and to just trust you. God, I know sometimes that's the most difficult thing for us to do, or to even consider sometimes. But God, we just pray that you would do those things, that you would be the river of joy for these folks, no matter what it is they're dealing with. But God, that as you answer these prayers, as you do miraculous things, God, as you heal folks, as you give people joy and mercy in the midst of what they're dealing with, that they would praise you for who you are and what you've done for them. God, may we always look at our situation in life as a way to grow in our faith by remembering who you are and what you've done for us. God, you're so good to us, far better than we deserve, God, and we're so thankful. God, continue to bless these people and these families. God, continue to remember or to be with all the schools that are starting, with the teachers and bus drivers and faculty and the students and the families. God, I pray that you give all of our local schools safety this year, and allow them to have a good place for all of our kids to go. God, a good, safe place where they're loved and learning can take place. But God, we just pray for our families and our community, knowing that so many of them are dealing with so many different things. God, we just pray our schools will be a blessing to them. God, we love you, and we pray that you continue to bless us, and that we will continue to give you the praise for blessing us. And it's in your name that we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you.